Good afternoon and Merry Christmas. It's Olive Arlo and Frank. It's Grandpa sitting in the living room in Jack's Beach. Your grandmother's upstairs taking a nap. And I figured I would do You're Only Old Once by Dr. Seuss. This book came out in 1986. So, Frank, you weren't born. Your dad was 7 years old when this came out. Arlo, your dad was 5 years old when this came out. And Olive, your mom was going to be born 2 years after this book was published. So, talking about, she was born in 1988. So here's the book, and it's about getting old. And I'm 71 now, so I look a lot like this dude here, the guy, the patient. Now this book here, it's different. The pictures are pretty much what we're used to seeing in Dr. Seuss books. I believe Dr. Seuss was the illustrator, that he was the one who drew the pictures for this. But the book itself, it actually has a cover that goes over it. And so I put this extra page in here so that you would see that cover. And that's where I took the cover off. And that's with the cover on. And this is just like, this is sort of like a CAT scan or an MRI machine, or all kinds of things that they do in things that look a little bit like this. Usually you're going to be lying on your back when you're in them, and they're not going to be a trapeze up in the middle of the air. But this is Dr. Seuss, so it's all going to be a little different. And when I had radiation for cancer, they put me in something that looked like this. So we saw these guys before. These dudes here with the beards are from another book. I can't remember the book, but that kind of goes to show you that Dr. Seuss is the one illustrating it, because on this and the front cover, it would have illustrations by blah blah blah, and it doesn't. So this is and let me grab the book. Because it's much easier to read it from the book than to kind of look down here. So this is with affection for and afflictions with the members of the class of 1925. So if he graduated in 1925, then he probably was born around 1908. So he was 78 years old when this book came out, older than me. And that's just all a guess. So here we have the old guy, the grandpa kind of figure, who's sitting in a waiting room. Sometimes waiting rooms will have, get this set up, fish tanks. And he's reading National Geographic, which is a magazine that's still around. And the fish is reading, if you look at it. Looks like the fish is reading over his shoulder. In those green pastured mountains of Falafazee, everybody feels fine at 103, 'cause the air that they breathe is potassium free, and because they chew nuts from the tut-a-tut tree. This gives strength to their teeth, it gives length to their hair, and they lived without doctors, with nary a care. There's a lot going on here. There's this camel kind of thing, and this guy's, that's a pretty cool seat. That'd be pretty cool to do that. Go through your kingdom like that. But now we're going to go to a completely different world. We're back at the hospital, and now we've panned out. So we were looking at just him sitting there, but now we see the context of where he is, and we see things here, optical IMAX, and these. Olive, your dad is a doctor, and Arthur, your mom is a nurse, so they can tell you better than me. But I don't think that these are really. I don't think there's any dermoglymics and optoglymics. Derm has to do with skin, and opto has to do with eyes. And there's something called the glycemic index, but I don't think that. I think he made up names. And so we're not in this land, but you wish, in those pasture green mountains of Fadafazi. So we're not in Fadafazi, we're in the real world. And this is what happens to you when you get old in the real world. And you're only old once. Some people don't get to be old at all. Some people get to be old for a long time. And you'll find yourself wishing that you were out there in Fadafazi and not in this chair. In the Golden Years Clinic on Century Square for spleen readjustment and muffler repair. Your spleen is a I don't even know exactly what it does, but it's one of your internal organs. Just why are you here? You're not feeling your best. Now, we see that this guy is now looking over here, and he's looking over here because there's somebody going, come on with me. You've come in for an eyesight and solvency check. So an eyesight check is for real. And you do look through a machine at these things on the wall, and you have to tell what letters you see. But this is saying, have you any idea how much money these tests are costing you? Dr. Seuss always had a very good sense of humor. You've come in for an eyesight and solvency test. Well, solvency has to do with kind of being liquid. And if you make a solution, it's solvent. Like if you take Bosco, I don't even know if they have Bosco, Nestle's Quick, something like that. You put it in milk and stir it up. It's solvent, so it mixes together. It also has to do with financial markets. If you're bankrupt, you're not solvent, you're not liquid. You can't get your money. You don't have money to pay your bills. So you're not solvent. But that's, I believe, it's not a medical test, a solvency test. So now we got these characters. Let's see what they're doing. And here he's like walking in like, oh no, I got to deal with these three look-alike guys. What's going to happen to me in here? And if you're the type that gets finicky finnick, at this point you'll try to get out of that clinic. But they will outwit you as quick as a winnock. The quiz docs will catch you. They'll start questionnaring. They'll ask you point blank how your parts are all faring. So there's no such thing as questionnaring. But you can question somebody. You can give them a questionnaire. And I guess you could turn that into a verb by calling it questionnaring. So And now we're over here. And your grandfather's parts. And please try to recall if your grandma hurt most in the spring or the fall. Did your cousins have dreadful, wild nightmares at night? Did they suffer such ailments as bus drivers' blight? Blight. Blight is something that happens to trees. It's a disease that trees get. Humans, I don't believe, get blight. Chimney sweep stupor or prune picker's plight? And describe the main cause of your uncle's collapse. Too much alphabet soup or martinis, perhaps. Martinis are alcoholic beverages. So whenever you go into a hospital, a doctor's office, anything medical, they're going to ask you questions. Why are you here? And they're going to take a history, a family history. And they're going to ask you how many beers you drink and how much food you eat, how often you exercise. So this is a lighthearted look at that, but it's pretty true to form. And the next thing you know, when you finish that test, And the next thing you know, when you finish that test, is somehow you've lost both your necktie and vest. And we see that this guy doesn't have a shirt on. So before, he had, it's like a bow tie, not a necktie. And it's not really a vest, it's a jacket. He may have a vest on under it. So he still has his pants on. And they do that when you go to the doctor's office. Depending on what part of your body you have to look at, they say, okay, take off your shirt, take off your pants. For instance, I right now have this thing on. I have diodes hooked up to 3 spots on my body. They're hooked to this little machine, and there's people at Mayo Clinic who are monitoring that 24 hours a day. So total, it'll be 8 days that I'm going to wear this thing, and they're going to be watching it. But when I went to get the thing, they put it on for you. And the woman's like, well, you can take off your shirt, just lift it up. So I, went, shh, and then she put the like adhesive patches on there, and then you put the diodes on. And next thing you know, when you've finished that test, is somehow you've lost both your necktie and vest, and an ogler is ogling your stomach and chest. So to ogle, it's something that usually describes a male looking at a female and looking at her a little too long. Let's just put it that way. Like liking what he sees a little too much. But they're saying that this guy here is an ogler, and he's looking at his chest, his stomach and chest. And these aren't real machines. So this guy, it says good, bad, and so-so. And his stomach and chest are getting a so-so. Your escape plans have melted. You haven't a chance. For the next thing you know, both your socks and your pants and your drawers and your shoes have been lost for the day. The oglers have blossomed like roses in May. So when flowers grow in the spring. And silently, grimly, they ogle away. So here now he's in the same machine, and they put this thing on his head, and he's naked. Oh, and there's one there's one down here. This lady's like, look it up. Ugh. That's not good at all. This guy's taking notes. Yeah. And this is what you feel like when you go to the doctor. They do all kinds of stuff that I'm not even going to explain to you. Because by the time you need to have this stuff explained to you, you're not going to be reading this book anymore. Okay. So now it looks like he's back at the waiting room. What these oglers have learned, they're not ready to tell. Clinicians don't spout their opinions pell-mell. So pell-mell is like going all over the place, spontaneously. And clinicians are, that's an actual word. That's people who work in a clinic. And this guy's at a clinic. It's sort of like, clinic is like a hospital that you can't stay overnight, for lack of a better term. Your parents can tell you exactly what they are. So here's a thing here called neuronetics. And that's, I know that's not a real thing, because neuro, which is like your brain, the nervous system in your brain and all that, your neuro system is N-E-U-R, not N-O-O-R. So here, this dude's back here. And the fish is looking at him like, dude, man, it sucks. And that fish gets to watch everybody sit there and go like, hey, man, that sucks. What those oglers have learned, they're not ready to tell. Clinicians don't spout their opinions pell-mell. So you're back with the vestibule fish for a spell. So the vestibule is when you first come into a house. That's the vestibule. Or any building, when you first come in, it's kind of like a mud room where you, so this is the, what would we call it these days? It wouldn't be a vestibule, it's the lobby. When you first come into a building, there's a lobby, and there's going to be a secretary or maybe a guard there that can tell you where you need to go, and they'll go, oh yeah, just sit over there, they'll be right with you, and then somebody comes out and gets you. So you're back with the vestibule fish for a spell. Norval won't bring you much comfort, you know. So the fish's name is Norval. Just, Arlo, you like to name things. Would you name that fish Norval? Maybe if he was a narwhal, he would be Norval the narwhal. Norval won't bring you much comfort, you know, but he's quite sympathetic as clinic fish go. Yeah. Oh, I'm missing one. I hope it's just one. Yeah. There you'll sit several hours, growing tenser each second, fearing your fate will be worse than you reckoned, till finally Miss Becker, your beckoner, beckons. So when you beckon somebody, you're going like, hey, come on over here. And her name is Becker. She's a beckoner because she beckons people. Miss Becker, your beckoner, beckons. And this says ears right here. We see that there's some kind of a machine looking in his ears. Wet my whistle here. To a booth. So he's been beckoned to a booth. To a booth where the world-renowned earman von Crandall has perfected a test known as bellows and candle. If the wind from the bellows can't blow out the flame, you failed, and you're going to be sorry you came. So a bellows is something that you use, like a blacksmith will use to stoke his fire. And Arlo, your dad is into barbecue, and I'm into barbecue. And sometimes you take like a straw and go and blow into underneath where the fire is, so that it comes up through the fire and it makes the fire get hotter. But this is something, a bellows, you go, push, push, push. And when you go, it folds up and it shoots air out. So now, if that thing And you see here, there's hands, mechanical hands that are going to go with it. And it's going to shoot air. And what it wants to happen is it wants the air to go through this guy's head and then blow out that candle. Well, don't try this at home. Okay. That ain't happening. And if that doesn't happen, you're going to be sorry you came. So if you had an empty head and the air just went right through it and blew out the candle, then you'd be happy because you'd be going home. But this poor dude, excuse me. You'll be told that your hearing's so murky and muddy, your case calls for special, intensified study. They'll test you with noises from far and from near, and you'll get a black mark for the ones you can't hear. Then they'll say, my dear fellow, you're deafer than most. But there's hope, since you're not quite as deaf as a post. And a post is just a chunk of wood. Like a fence post is the thing that you build the fence on. Those posts stick up out of the ground, and they can't hear anything because they're not alive. We'll study your symptoms. We'll give you a call. In the meantime, go back and sit down in the hall. So here's the noises that they're doing. A cow mooing and a bird going whack. Like my neighbor Tony, and the guy sitting there going like, oh, trying to hear them all. And here's a guy with cymbals. I don't know why they're dumping water in this barrel, but these guys are playing instruments real loud. You can tell it's real loud just the way that they draw it, so they're like intensely going like. So this is all really loud. Like this dude smashing. Almost looks like two trash can lids, but it's supposed to be like cymbals. But they send them out there. So you'll find yourself talking to Norval once more, and Norval will think you're a bit of a bore. Right? So you're boring, we'll go with, not boorish. So you're a bit of a bore. You're not interesting. And Norval will think you're a bit of a bore because Norval has heard the same stories before. The people that sit in this chair are always going to tell this fish the same stories. And think about it. How's that fish hear them through the glass? How's a fish hear anything? To the fish, you'll become a plain pain in the neck while you wait once again for the Becker to beck. So you want Miss Becker to call you again. Well, you don't necessarily want that to happen. And apparently Miss Becker has beckoned you. But Miss Becker won't come. Oh, Miss Becker didn't. With great swish and great swank, a wheelchair will come. You've gained status and rank. And Weldon the wheeler will say with great pride, you have qualified, sir. You are now certified as a VIP case. Very important person. You're entitled to ride through thin and through thick. I'll be at your backside. So this is the guy. This is Wilbur or whatever. Weldon the wheeler. And he's wheeling this dude around there. And look, these guys kind of look alike, but not exactly. They look like the three dudes that were in that room. Dear Weldon will show you great sights as you go. Right now you are riding down Stethoscope Row, and so all these guys have stethoscopes. And I know that, like all our top patients, you're hoping to get yourself steth'd with some fine first-class scoping. So that's not a word, steth. I don't think so. So I'm sure you'll be simply delighted to hear that in the International Organs Olympics last year, Dr. Schmidt, Smoot, Sinatra, Sylvester, and Fonz won 15 gold medals, 9 silver, and 6 bronze. So there's no Olympics for doing the stethoscope. For the moment, however, we'll bypass this bunch. There is plenty of time to see them after lunch. So they're going to come back to these dudes. But you guys, if you've never listened to a stethoscope, ask your parents to bring one home. Or Arlo and Olive. Ask your parents to bring one home. And then you can listen to your heart. You can listen to your chest. I think that's all that you really listen to. I think you can, you can put it anywhere. You can put it like here. I think I've had the doctor put it here to the carotid artery and then in your femur down below. Okay, now look where they have this dude. Poor guy. And Weldon is like, I don't know if he's waiting there, if he's going away, but this doctor here, and they're all writing stuff down. Now they've just put it on the computer. But they have like a bowlfish, a fish bowl over his head. Bowlfish. They got all dyslexic. You must see Dr. Pollen, our allergy whiz, and pollen is what, is it comes from plants that like bees love to gather as they're making honey. And I'm allergic to pollen. It blows around in the air, usually in the spring, sometimes in the fall, depending on where you are and what kind of plant you're talking about. And it gets in your, I don't know if it would be called your olfactory system, but it gets into this area here, your nose, in your mouth, and then down into your lungs. And you sneeze sometimes. I actually get a fever, a real fever. So he's the allergy whiz, Dr. Pollen, who knows every sniffle and itch that there is. Dr. Pollen will find, as he works on your case, if the face powder's wrong on your stepsister's face. Okay. He will check your reactions to thumbtacks and glue, catcher's mitts, leaf mold, and cardigans too. And a cardigan is a sweater with like a high neck. I think, I don't know, that's turtleneck. Cardigan might be like cut in a V right here. But you can be allergic to all kinds of things. Grandmother's allergic to stuff too. Nasturtiums, which is a flower, and marble cake, white and blue chalks, anthracite coal, and the feathers of hawks. Also corn on the cob, also buffalo grease, and how you react when you're stared at by geese. I don't... He'll take copious notes, and that's a lot of notes, like scribbling furiously to get down all the notes. Copious notes. Then I'll hazard a guess that he'll send you downstairs to see Dr. Van Ness. So, all kinds of stuff happening in this room. This is like a treadmill that he's on, and he's got have glasses of water and this thing over his head. It is pretty funny because they have all these amazing machines at hospitals. And this is like a bed of nails. And so this must be Dr. Van Ness. This is radioactive in here. This must be some sort of an X-ray kind of thing. And that's why this dude's looking through this little window at this guy. Van Ness has enjoyed a high rate of success in his pioneer work in the study of stress. So you can be sure he will stress you a trifle. Then he'll send you around to see Dr. Von Eiffel. So everybody has stress in their life, but it can affect you negatively. It can affect your health negatively. So you want to try to control your stress as much as you can. Dietitian. A dietitian is somebody who deals with what you eat, food. Dietitian Von Eiffel controls the Wuffwiffer, our diet-devising computerized sniffer. So this is what they thought of a computer as looking like back in 1986. Oh yeah, I didn't have a computer back in 1986. There were no cell phones. I mean, if there were like prototypes that were made by companies that were trying to, hey, we have this new technology, but it's not like everybody had one. Cell phones, I got one in the late 90s when I started dating your grandmother. She had a cell phone. In the beginning, when I first met her, she had this big cell phone that you put it in a case. So it was much different than cell phones now. But when I got one, they were called flip phones, and you flip it. But mostly you would call people and you would text them. Then eventually you could take pictures on them. But they weren't miniature computers like now. When I was 16 years old, I got a job at First Pennsylvania Bank, downtown Philadelphia, 30th and Market. They had a computer that they kept records of the customers' accounts. It was a room twice as big as the room that I'm in right now, filled with all these machines, and they had these, looked like reel-to-reel tapes that would go, and it recorded all the stuff on there. And that computer held less information than this cell phone computer with that picture of Arlo. And that's an old picture of you, Arlo. I might get a new picture on there. Okay, so he's the Wuffwuffer, the diet-devising computerized sniffer. Computerized sniffer. And look, he's sniffing like hot dogs. There's all different things going to be in here that he's going to sniff. On which you just simply lie down and repose. Repose means you're lying there. And sniff at good food as it goes past your nose. From caviar souffle to caribou roast. From pemmican patties to turpin toast. You'll find out by sniff scan the foods you like most. And when this guy finds out what you like, you can bet it won't be on your diet. From here on, forget it. So yeah, it's like, yeah, doctors, they have a reputation for saying, no, you can't do this anymore. Like all the things that you like to do, your doctor will go, nah, it's going to kill you. You need to stop doing that. So that we make fun of doctors because of that. So yeah, every time I come to you, I get bad news. But that's why you go to a doctor. You go to a doctor because you're sick. Usually. I mean, you should have it set up so that you're going to preempt certain things. You know, like if you're gaining weight, You go at least yearly for a physical. And if you've gained 20 pounds, your doctor's going to go like, whoa, what's going on here? What did you change? And you're going to have that kind of relationship with your doctor. You should anyway. But before we go on to the next page, I want to tell you what's in these things here that this guy's going to be sniffing. See, this goes around and around and brings these things up, and then this lifts the top off and he gets to sniff it. So, because some of these foods here, I'm sure you have no idea, even you, Frank. You might know some of the words. But. So the stuff that's going to pass this nose from caviar, and caviar is fish eggs, a specific fish. But you can have caviar from any kind of fish that you can eat the eggs of. So you can have salmon that they'll say is caviar, but the real caviar is from a sturgeon, is the name of the fish. And a souffle is something that's made with cheese and it's whipped, so it's kind of puffy. And then you bake it. So this is a caviar souffle. Tastes pretty bad. To caribou roast. The caribou is like a giant reindeer. It's, I think they're bigger than reindeer, a little bit bigger, caribou. And it's roasted. Nobody's roasting caribou. Maybe some of those Inuits, the indigenous folks up there and up near the North Pole, they might eat caribou and roast it. From pemmican patties. So pemmican, I think, is, let's find out. I think it's kind of like jerky. It's meat that's dried out. Hey Siri, what is pemmican?
Pemmican is a mixture of tallow, dried meat, and sometimes dried berries. A calorie-rich food, it can be used as a key component in prepared meals or eaten raw. Do you want me to keep reading?
No, thank you. So, yeah, it's kind of like beef jerky, but it's more interesting than beef jerky. And when you go out into the woods and you're going to be out there surviving for a week or something, say that's like your thing. I like to go in the woods and live off the land. You take something like pemmican and it'll give you nourishment while you're out there, and you don't have to prepare it. You just like rip off a piece and eat it. So that's pemmican patties. And patties are like a hamburger is a hamburger patty. It's just like you put stuff together and it's a patty. To terrapin toast. Well, terrapin is a kind of a turtle. So this is turtle toast. Although you have a turtle now, but you wouldn't want to have turtle toast, I'm sure. Okay, so let's look at this now, showing all the places. And the wheeler dude, he's zipping them around. And then into the new wing. So this is the new wing here with all this stuff. And you can see it's like going around and down, because this is above this stuff here. So that's pretty cool. Then into the new wing, we'll see Dr. Speckles, who does the 3 F's, footsies, fungus, and freckles. like that. Yeah. And next we'll drop in on young Dr. Gins, our A and S man who does antrums and shins. Shin is like part of your leg, but it's not a thing. It's just being silly. And of course he'll refer us to Doctors McGrew, McGuire, and McPherson, and Blinn and Ballou, and Timpkins and Tompkins and Diller and Drew, Fitzsimmons, Fitzgerald, Fitzpatrick too, all of whom will prescribe a prescription for you. Each one of them's going to be giving you a pill that you're going to have to take. And look at all these dudes. Like, they're everywhere. This guy's going in to see all these people. Yeah. And these things here, this says tendons, and tendons are part of like the structure of how the muscle connects to the bone in your body. And then tantrums are when you act like a baby, where you start screaming, nah, 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 nah. Your parents will go, stop throwing a tantrum. And then this is the arboretum, which is, like a kind of outdoor, indoor place where they have light coming through, and there might be trees and, all kinds of stuff, little waterfall. So they're all going to have a prescription, all these dudes. I like these guys where they're looking over. Kilroy was here. Google that, Kilroy was here. And then you'll see people looking over a wall like that. Look at all these pills. This looks like, most of my pills I take at night, and I take them with dinner. That looks like me at dinner, going like, okay, what do I have to take now? For your pill drill, you go to room 663, where a voice will instruct you. Repeat after me. This small white pill is what I munch at breakfast and right after lunch. I take the pill that's Kelly green before each meal and in between. These Loganberry colored pills, and Loganberries, I think, are like this color here, like a purplish. Loganberry colored pills I take for early morning chills. I take the pill with zebra stripes to cure my early evening gripes. These orange tinted ones, of course, I take to cure my Charlie horse. And a Charlie horse is a cramp in the back of your leg. It's in your hamstring. They're painful. They suck. I take 3 blues at 8:30 to slow my exaltation rate. Being exalted means like you're very joyous. Exalted. Like God is exalted on high. So he doesn't want to be exalted, which you would want to be exalted. On alternative nights at 9 p.m., I swallow pinkies, 4 of them. The reds, which make my eyebrows strong. I eat like popcorn all day long. So he must have some weak eyebrows. The speckled browns are what I keep beside my bed to help me sleep. This long, flat one is what I take if I should die before I wake. There's a children's prayer you say before bed, like little kids say. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And so he's making fun of that. That's what I take if I should die before I wake. Look at all this stuff. This is like look how far this goes. It's all paperwork that he has to fill out. That's another part of the medical industry. And this guy's got a pen in each hand, and look, he's got a pen in each hand. He's going to run out of ink. When at last we are sure you've been properly pilled, then a few paper forms must be properly filled, so that you and your heirs may be properly billed. So they not only do they want you to pay, but they want it so that, like, if you die, that the people that inherit your money, you're going to have to pay them. Yeah. And let's see, I think we're getting close. So this is fore and aft, and on boats, fore is the bow, the front, and aft is the stern, the rear, the back. And so here he goes to get his stuff, and they have different rooms for the stuff. Coats, socks, and pants. So they would have a special room that you would take, you'd have to go that way, and then you go down here and get your pants. It's silly. But you'll get this as you get older. And especially, the ones that have parents who are in the medical field, they'll clue you in. Whereupon, if you're smart, there's a very good chance that you'll meet soon again with your socks, coat, and pants. So they're saying that maybe you'll get all those things back, and maybe you'll be leaving the hospital without them. And you'll know once your necktie's back under your chin and Norval has waved you Godspeed with his fin, and here's Norval waving. And Godspeed is a way to say goodbye. Goodbye really means God bless you in like Old English or something. You're in pretty good shape for the shape that you're in. And that's true of me. And I look like this dude a little bit. So, party on. It didn't do it. Peace out. Peace out. Didn't do it. No balloons, no nothing. Later.